You have rolled a critical failure. You open the vault door and are met by two nerds sitting at a table about to start a podcast.
Two hosts, one vault, and an endless supply of geeky goodness. This is the Nerd Vault. Roll for initiative. Welcome everyone to the very first episode of the Nerd Vault podcast. The name pending.
Ooh. Really?
Well, I mean, it's probably going to be Nerd Vault podcast. I say name pending because I'm open to potential changes before I hit upload, which will be very soon.
Okay, good. I don't have anything.
I expected nothing less. So the Nerd Vault podcast is basically anything to do with movies, possibly music, pop culture, video games, board games, tech, rumours, all that sort of stuff.
We're into a lot of shit.
Yeah, basically. If it's nerdy...
Between the two of us.
Yeah, if it's nerdy, we're into it. That's basically the way it's going to go. So, if you haven't checked it out yet, the Nerd Vault we are on YouTube, where we do all sorts of fun, crafty things. We have the Nerd Vault on Twitch, where we stream video games, because, why the hell not? We have our Discord. All the links are going to be down below if you want to go and check it out. To get cracking on today's episode, or the first episode, the inaugural episode, the debut episode, whatever you want to call it, we're going to start off with some movie news, because there is some interesting stuff happening in the world of Hollywood. Or Hollyweird if you're one of those cool, edgy people, which I'm not.
Don't do that.
I'm not a cool, edgy person.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Never say that again.
Okay. I apologize.
You should.
Yeah. Look at this. We're a couple of minutes in and I'm already apologizing for my actions.
That's to be expected.
Yeah, it's true. If you've ever checked out any of our streams, you'll know that I'm pretty into the whole horror genre. Now, I don't know how horror this is going to be, but Tom Holland, who most notably known for, I want to say, Spider-Man. That's where most people would know him from.
I mean, that's basically what this topic is, right? It's Tom Holland is potentially going to do something non-Spider-Man that's actually good.
He's jumping on to a Christopher Nolan movie, and how many Christopher Nolan movies are bad?
People were not happy about the audio in Tenet, but everything else about it was pretty, everyone was happy with, from the reviews that I saw, was happy with that film, and all of the rest of his library is amazing.
Yeah, I went and saw Oppenheimer when it came out, and we actually went to the movies, which I don't do very often, and holy shit, am I glad I physically went to a movie theater to watch it, because it was phenomenal. It's such a good movie.
Actually, this is even weirder for me. I don't get to go to the movies that often. I would all the time if I could. I actually went and saw Oppenheimer twice, once at IMAX and once in Gold Class. And the IMAX experience of that film is just next level, especially all of those beautiful effects shots that they inserted into the film, and all of the close-up IMAX shots that were used in a lot of different areas of the film, and getting that really, really, really deep depth of field. Everything, all of those beautiful blurry bokeh on, 90% of the frame almost, and all of that stuff in IMAX in person was just incredible.
Oh, I would have killed to go and actually see it in IMAX. I just went to a regular cinema. But it was amazing. I can't deny that it wasn't insanely good. Now, I loosely say horror because being Christopher Nolan, he's not known for doing horror movies. He's always said that he has an idea and he enjoys it. But there's a rumor going around that Tom Holland and Matt Damon could be doing a vampire movie set in the 1920s, written and directed by Christopher Nolan.
It wouldn't be any surprise to me if this is just another entry in the list of incredible thrillers that Christopher Nolan has produced between Memento, Insomnia, The Prestige, those kind of movies where it's a very dark, very seriously toned movie with a really great twist somewhere in there. I hope it's something like that, and that would be great for Tom Holland if he does have a leading role in this film. I think a role like this is probably the one that he's been hanging out for, because he's done a few thriller movies over the last few years, but they've all been completely panned.
I can't even think of any.
I haven't seen any of them.
I couldn't name a single Tom Holland thriller movie. I'll be honest, and I mean I feel like that's kind of sad that I should be able to go, oh yeah, here is movie title that he did that is not Spider-Man, but I can't. I just can't think off the top of my head. So I'm looking at, we've got here from JoeBlow.com. They said it's still unclear what type of film Nolan is developing, but it said it will be a father and son story, with sources saying it won't be set in the present day. It's not known whether that means it is the past or future, but IO9 has heard a rumor that it will be a vampire movie set in the 1920s. Intriguing, but again, rumor. Take it with a grain of salt at this point. Production is expected to kick off in early 2025, with Universal already slating the film for an IMAX release on July 17, 2026. In addition to directing and writing the film, Nolan will also produce with Emma Thomas under their Syncopy banner. I mean, I'm pretty keen for this. I'm going to be honest.
100%. Like if Christopher Nolan, at the peak of his hype now after Oppenheimer, if he can pull off yet another great movie, I'm here for it. 100%. And Tom Holland, he's a great actor, and he's clearly, it's hard not to point at the other movies that he did and be like, he's clearly trying to avoid getting typecast. Because he did a movie in 2020 and two in 2021. They're all like thrillery type movies.
Yeah, okay.
And they were all panned, but all the reviews also say that Tom was great in them and then the rest of it was shit. So if this movie can help Tom avoid becoming a typecast actor, help him break away from that Spider-Man role, maybe not even break away, but show his chops and make sure that he doesn't end up getting boxed in. I think it'll be really good for him. And Matt Damon's always well, not always, but mostly he's been a good person to go see at the movies. So
yeah,
shouldn't be too much to complain about.
I feel like he's at a point in his career. Tom Holland is at a point where it's similar to, say, Daniel Radcliffe, who was always, that's just Harry Potter. Not like, he's Daniel Radcliffe, he's a really good actor. No, it was, you're Harry Potter. And that's just, I understand it, because we all watched him grow up from this little kid into an adult through the course of the movies. But now he's branching out and he's doing so many. The Woman in Black, amazing. He went and did that TV show that I can't remember the name of, with Steve Buscemi as God. That was really good as well.
Oh,
you know the one that I'm talking about. The movie with the people in it.
I can't think of it either. But like, he did Guns Akimbo.
I haven't seen that one yet. I've seen
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Swiss Army Man. That was another really, really good movie. Even though he kind of didn't do anything, but also did so much at the same time. Yep. Phenomenal. I know that horror is not your thing, and you try to avoid it like the plague. But we can't start off this without talking about possibly one of the. It's going to be like the next horror icon. I feel like when you. Let's. Horror icons. Who comes to mind when we say the words horror icons?
I mean, the most obvious answer and extremely relevant to this is It.
Yeah, Pennywise. Pennywise is right up there. You got Leatherface, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers. You know, like the list goes on. But like
even non-horror fans like myself know all of these names.
Exactly right. There is another one who is the anti-Pennywise, and I have absolutely loved this movie series from the first one, which needed much improvement, mainly in the story writing. It was just here is a whole shitload of gore, and that's the movie. I tell you what, I'm down for the gore.
Are you going to say what it is for the people at home?
I'm building it. It's called building it up, you know?
We're quivering in anticipation.
I know. That's the whole point of the horror. That you set up the setup, and then nothing. And then you hit them. That's how horror movies work.
Imagine a movie series so gory that it was reported that people actively just threw up in the cinema.
I saw the third one. After seeing all of this, I went to the movies. We went on a cute little double date with parents from the school. And
oh, nice.
I'll be honest, about half of the people that went in were not there at the end.
Wow.
Yes. So, if you haven't caught on, we're talking about Terrifier and Art the Clown. I feel like, for me being into all of the horror stuff, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty fucked up. I can't deny that it was gruesome. But I don't think it was as bad as the second movie. There's a particular scene there's one particular scene in all three movies, I'll be honest. And if you're squeamish, maybe skip ahead a few minutes. Because I'll spoiler alert here. The first movie, if you haven't seen it, there is one particular scene with a chick upside down and he gets a hacksaw and cuts her straight down the middle.
Delightful.
That's kind of the scene. He's always got one really prolific scene in each movie. That's it. In the second movie, there is a scene of Art on the bed with a girl that he is just like, I think she's been scalped and blood everywhere, and he is laughing. I'd say laughing and giggling, but he doesn't. There is no talking from him. He makes no sounds other than the squelching of blood and guts. That's the only sound. And he's got a little horn that he goes toot, 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 toot. Horn noise. That's a horn noise. That's what horns do now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, the bed scene in the second movie is the iconic one. And now in the third one, it was not as gruesome as the first two. It still wasn't good. But as Damien Leone said, who's the writer and director, he felt like he always wanted to use a chainsaw, which is, as we all know, Leatherface uses a chainsaw. And he felt like...
It's a classic horror weapon, yeah.
It is. And he felt like he needed to prove himself first before using one. Which, okay, cool. He's respecting all of the horror movies that have influenced him as an artist. Which, props to him for that. So he finally brought out the chainsaw in this one. In a shower scene. Two people getting it on, because, you can't have... I think it's actually illegal to have a horror movie where young teens aren't getting it on in some way. I think it's illegal.
Also simultaneously dying.
Yeah, they have to die. It's the law. Yep. They have to get it on and die in the process. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then this one, dude gets carved up with a chainsaw. I'll leave it at that. We'll just say he gets carved up in a particular fashion, and it was brutal, but not as bad as the other two. But the amount of people that saw that and walked out, I was like, wow. I mean, I'm assuming they've seen all of all of the stuff that everyone's saying about it, and they've gone, oh, we can sit through that. That's going to be fun. And they get there and they don't understand the lore behind it. They don't understand the history. They don't understand art.
The lore.
Yeah, you got to have the lore, man. I was talking to a mate the other day about it because he said he doesn't like number 1. He hated it. So I'm like, dude, watch number 2. It's got a much stronger storyline. And so he finally watched it. I think he's on board a little bit, but he just goes, oh, it's a clown. The clown kill people. End of movie. I'm like, yeah, but there's so much more to it than that. So much
You could reduce a lot of movies down to that level and make them sound dumb like that.
100%. But if and that sounds pretty dumb. But on saying that, if that was all the movie was, then I don't think number 3 would be doing as well as it currently is. It has outperformed. We're just box office here. It has completely and utterly destroyed Joker 2, the folly of foie gras, whatever bloody
The foie gras of baguette.
Yeah, foie gras of baguette Joker movie.
Well, here's the wild thing. I was looking it up before. The Terrifier 3 budget was only $2 million.
Correct.
Which, these days, by current, film standards, is tiny.
Oh, minuscule.
And it's already made 22 times that amount at the box office.
Jesus.
Joker 2 was $200 million reported budget, and it hasn't even made that back yet.
That's so bad. That's really bad.
I mean, like, if you want to talk about the Joker for a second, just to be a little bit off topic of Terrifier, but just like, it's the sequel that should never have been made, right? The first movie
Correct.
was perfect.
Oh, dude, the first movie kicked ass. It was amazing.
If you are in a situation as, like, a high-level producer, corporate person making movies, and your leading man stands up at the end of your premiere and turns to his female co-star and goes, well, that was shit. And the director's standing next to him pulling this face like, whoopsie. You should probably seriously rethink your career.
Is that what
if
happened?
You're the person responsible. Like, literally, there's footage of it, of Joaquin Phoenix standing up at the end of the premiere and turning to Lady Gaga and going, well, that was fucking awful.
Oh, no.
I think his exact word was horrifying. I can't remember now, but, like, seriously.
Yeah, you definitely don't want that, especially out of the lead actor. If he goes, that was bad. No. And I thought there was. I heard that there were also talks on doing a third movie at some point. I think that's definitely well and truly squashed now. I hope it is and truly squashed now. Back to the Terrifier. The franchise debuted in 2016 as a successful independent slasher. Its sequel, Terrifier 2, received critical and commercial success, grossing $15.7 million against a budget of $250,000, which is just wild.
And number 3 is now easily going to crack 50 million.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'll be honest, I'd be happy to go and see that 2 or 3 more times at the movies. If the movies were more affordable for us broke bitches, I'd be more than happy to go and see it a few more times.
Here's the interesting thing, right? Again, me as not the horror person.
Yeah.
I would bet that social media has actually had a massive part in the success of this third movie.
Most definitely.
Because the number of memes that I've seen of Art the Clown floating around the internet of just it's entirely two relatable things of him just making that creepy smile and that lovely elevator music, and it just works so well. It's so memeable. I've got no doubt that that's contributed a massive amount.
Yeah, and it's crazy now because I think if you made this kind of a movie, I don't know, let's say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't think it would have worked as well as it is now. There's something about all of the social media stuff and the memeing of just taking tiny little things out of context, and all of a sudden you gone from, this is a real gory cult kind of a movie, cult classic, that maybe in 20 years time someone will pick it up and go, hey, this is actually pretty cool, to now it's just, like I don't is he going to get a bigger budget for the next one, going from 250 on the second up to 2 million? Like, that's a pretty big jump in budget.
But by Hollywood standards, it's still not that much. They could double it to 4 million and it's still a small, relatively speaking, budget for by Hollywood terms. So, there's no reason why, if it continues to be a commercial success, it couldn't end up like the Scream series and have 11 bajillion entries.
I know that Damon Leone has said that he has plans for 2 more movies, I think. And he's already working on number 4. So that'll come out in the next couple of years. I think he's eyeing a 2026, 2027 release. So I'm ready for it now. I'm not gonna lie. I'm ready for the whole series right now. But yeah,
I think if you could say anything about the horror genre, is that fans of the horror genre are really forgiving when it comes to forcing sequels. They will, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you will let a good horror filmmaker get away with some really, really dumb plot twists just to enable the next entry to come out.
So, going back to when slashers were like all the rage, like slashers were what Marvel is now, where it's just they are forcing it down your throat. So back in like the 80s, when you had all of them coming out, they were trying to outdo each other. Back then, there were some really, really bad decisions made in terms, I can say, in entire movies, where you watch and go, you know what? The one before this wasn't bad. This was complete dog shit. The next one comes out, you watch it, you go, okay, we're back on track again. You just pretend like that movie doesn't exist. And every franchise has that one movie that you go, you know what? Nah, we skipped that one. We go straight from, say, 6, 7 doesn't exist, and 8. Because most of them have probably around about 8 to 10 movies. You look at Friday the 13th, probably has about a dozen movies. Nightmare on Elm Street, the proper Nightmare on Elm Street, has, I think, 8 movies. And then they got a new actor in, and it wasn't Robert Englund, and it's just not the same. I'm not, I don't want to put bad onto the guy that played Freddy Krueger, but when you've got someone who has played the same character for such a long time, you can't, replacing him, it's not the same. Especially
you've got to be really careful about how you execute it, and maybe you can get away with it. I can't even think of an example, but I'm sure there is one.
Yeah. Replacing purely because they didn't have a choice, but Dumbledore.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
That's the only one that comes to mind. There was nothing really said about replacing him, but it worked.
It had to happen, and they picked the right guy for the job.
Definitely.
Gambon did a great job.
100%. The best way that I have seen an actor replacement be done was on My Wife and Kids. I don't know if you remember that show.
I do vaguely.
Yeah. One of the Wayans, Damon Wayans, I think, and the eldest daughter. They had one actor for the first season and then swapped her over for the second season. And in episode 1 of season 2, she comes into the kitchen or the lounge, wherever they were, and the dad, who's played by, I think, Damon Wayans, looks at her and actually says, "You look different. Have you done something with your hair?" And she's like, "No, what are you talking about? Don't be silly." And then they just go on with it as if nothing happened. That's after incredible. That. It was the best way to go, hey, yeah, we've swapped the actor, but we're just going to keep going on anyway. It was absolutely perfect.
One time where it worked really well. Let me think of his name. Who did Don Cheadle replace?
Oh, yeah.
In Iron Man.
Yeah, in Iron Man. I can picture him in my head.
What's his face who said that 1 + 1 does not equal 2 or some shit? Cuba Gooding Jr.?
No, he didn't. I'm going to have to look this up. I can't. I don't think it was Cuba Gooding. Here we go. Terrence Howard. That's it. He replaced Terrence Howard. So Terrence Howard was actually slated to, he was going to play War Machine throughout everything. Hollywood insiders believe the exit stems from Terrence Howard's difficult behavior on set of Iron Man, but those with intimate knowledge of the situation suggest a far more dramatic backstory. Howard was the first actor signed to the film, and on top of that, was the highest paid. That's insane that he was the highest paid when you've got Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeff Bridges, Robert Downey Jr. there.
His stock in the industry was so high in that era that I think he just lost his mind, because he also said that 1 × 1 = 2 or 1 + 1 = 3 or something like that, and tried to do this math proof to prove it, and had all of these assumptions within the premise of this proof, to the point where every physicist and mathematician who entertained the idea turned around and went, your first sentence is provably wrong.
That's bad.
And he's like, yeah.
Jesus.
Don't want to get into it too much, but also my apologies to Cuba Gooding Jr. for him and
how dare you tarnish his good name. Actually, I don't know if his name is all that good anymore. I think some stuff got brought up about him, and he kind of just went under the dirt a bit.
Yeah, I just don't think he was ever that great of an actor.
Which one? Cuba Gooding?
Is that fair to say? Yeah, Cuba Gooding Jr.
He was all right. Good enough that we know his name. And we forgot Terrence Howard's name.
Yeah,
so
I blocked it out.
Make of that what you will.
Here's an interesting thought, though. Just obviously completely derailed at this point, and talking about series that have so many entries, and one of them always turns out to be crap.
Yep.
James Cameron's Avatar extensions. Obviously, we've got number 3 coming out next year, and then 4 and 5 way down the track.
Wow.
I wonder, the last one, Way of Water, was fine, and the first one was fine, very pretty visually and all that stuff, but you reckon that any of these Avatar films are just going to absolutely bomb?
I feel like at some point they probably will, but it's going to be later on down the track. I'll be honest, I've never actually seen Avatar. Which,
haven't you?
No, I never got around to it. It was one that was sitting there, and I was like, yeah, I'll get around to it eventually. And it's still just sitting there, and I might get around to it.
We should watch it.
Yeah, we can 100%.
Simply because it would be good to, I think, talk about a bit. They're interesting movies. They are. The one thing that you can say about them that almost everyone would agree on is that they're too long. Well, the first one came out in like 2010, 2009 or something like that. So back then, movies were way shorter. That movie was 2 hours and 45 minutes.
2 hours 42? I'm looking at it here.
Which is like, back then, that was an insane amount of time to spend in a cinema.
Absolutely wild. And Way of the Water, 3 hours and 12 minutes.
Yeah. The only time that people would have spent that much time in a cinema was also James Cameron's other film, The Titanic.
Do you? What about Lord of the Rings?
Well, the extended editions, most people wouldn't have seen in the cinema. And I'm pretty sure the Fellowship of the Ring was only like an hour and 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours.
I want to say it was longer than that. Fellowship of the Ring, 2 hours and 58. So let's call that 3 hours. Two Towers, 3 hours.
That's got to be the extended edition time.
And Return of the King, 3 hours and 21 minutes. Runtime of the extended editions. So if you were to sit down and watch the whole series, the extended editions, you were in for 11 hours and 22 minutes of watching a group of people walk to put a ring into a fire.
Man, it's been too long since I've sat down and watched the Lord of the Rings movies. It's still 9 hours, 18 minutes to watch the theatrical cut. I remember it being a lot shorter. It's been a long time since I've watched them.
Yeah, I did know it was quite long. And yeah, that's just absolutely wild. The runtime for the first Hobbit movie is 182 minutes. For the extended,
that was definitely too long.
That's 13 minutes in the theatrical release. I'll be honest, I like The Hobbit.
You know what we should sit down and watch? The fan cut of The Hobbit.
I didn't know there was one.
There are a few around, I think, but there was one in particular a lot of people recommend that you watch, which it's cut down to one 4-hour movie.
Okay.
And apparently it's a much better experience.
Maybe what we should do is in the Discord, which again, link will be down below. We should have a watch party. Set up a time and we can watch some of these movies. I feel like that could be a fun thing to do.
For sure.
Yeah. Because I know that Bon won't want to watch most of these movies that we discuss. She's definitely out on Lord of the Rings. She's definitely out on The Hobbit. That's where she draws the line, and she won't watch those.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. She doesn't really play many video games either, so anything video game related, she'll be out. She hasn't seen all of the Harry Potter movies. She's seen some of them, but not all of them. So she doesn't even know how that ends.
That one surprises me.
Yeah, she thought they were all right, but she wasn't as invested in them as I was as a child.
Yeah, I feel like, both of us literally growing up absorbing the books into our brains.
Definitely.
The movies have a lot of nostalgia factor.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of, did you ever play Hogwarts Legacy when that came out?
I watched a lot of gameplay of it and always thought to myself, I should go get it. I never did.
Well, lucky for you, they are working on a definitive edition.
Yeah. And at first I was like, it only came out not too long ago. Surely it doesn't need a definitive edition?
Well, they had absolutely no DLC, which for this day and age, having a game come out that has zero DLC is really weird. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's quite nice having that harkens back to that nostalgia of you buy a game and you have the game. You don't have to pay for extra bits. You bought the game.
You are being monetized for every last cent and dollar that you have.
Yeah. And I bought it and I played it and I freaking loved it, man. I thought it was really cool to go all the way back to the 1800s and go through everything and play. The thing that I didn't rate, and it's a very minor thing, is that there was a particular mission that you could do, and it was quite a horror themed thing. If you could only play it if you were in Hufflepuff, which annoyed me.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I think what they should have done is have a few missions that are house specific. That would then add to the replayability of the game, rather than just having a singular, here's a Hufflepuff mission. If you're not in Hufflepuff, just politely go fuck yourself. And me being Slytherin, obviously I'm choosing Slytherin. I was like, yeah, let's go. And I missed out on it, so I never played that one. But they're working on a definitive edition, and I think it's going to be, they're saying it's going to be about $20 if you've already got the game.
Yeah, I read that. That's actually a nice move, because, you know, often with these definitive editions or, you know, legendary editions or whatever, they re-release the game as this new package, and it's a totally separate game, and you have to buy it all over again if you had the original. Yeah. So doing it as DLC is definitely a good move.
100%. That way people can, you know, buy this version, and then that's it. They've got the full thing. Now, there is some things that were left out of the original, and there's a lot of rumor going around about what people want to have in there, obviously. And if I can just find it, I do actually have a list of things that I would personally like to see. Here we go. So this is my nice to haves, I want to say. So, starting at the top, in Hogwarts Legacy, and they worked it into the storyline as well, which I thought was quite good, is you can't play Quidditch. Which, story-wise, it worked out well, because they pulled the pin on it. They were going to have it in there, and then they went, you know what, let's focus all of our time and effort on everything else that actually matters and make it a good game, and we'll just scrap this part of it. So I appreciate that.
Quidditch would be so much extra effort for them to get it right and to play well.
Yeah.
That it almost, it does make a lot of sense to just cut it and turn around and say, you know what, this is the Harry Potter game. It's about the magic and the wand waving.
Yeah.
And if we're going to make a Quidditch game, make a Quidditch game.
Well, that's what they did. So they've got, I don't know if it was Portkey that made it, or no, I think it might have been one of their sister companies or something that ended up releasing the Quidditch game, Quidditch Champions. And from what I've seen, it's all right. It's very cartoony in the design and the aesthetics of it, which I was a bit like, you know what? I'm not huge on that. Like Borderlands, I never got into it because of the aesthetic of it.
The line art kind of cel-shaded kind of designs.
Yeah, that's just not me. Is it a good game? I don't know. I tried. I played it for a few hours and went, nah, the art style is not for me, and I stopped playing. And I'll be honest, I've copped a lot of hate for that, and I'm like, I feel like it's very overrated for what I played. But
yeah, I think, you know, particularly when it comes to Borderlands and those kinds of cel-shaded styles, it's unique and it's interesting, but at the time that it came out, it was being used a lot in a bunch of different games.
Correct.
So, you know, I don't blame you at all for just kind of being done with that art style. Like the gameplay, especially in the first one, I thought was quite good, but as it went on, they kind of didn't. They over-innovated, I'd almost say. They changed the, looter aspects and the modularity of the guns to the point where I kind of lost interest myself. But I can't say that the art style either added to or took away from those games. I think they made it work.
Yeah, each to their own. Yeah. So some things that I personally would like to see in this, in Hogwarts, the definitive edition or the director's cut or whatever they end up calling it. Who knows? I would like to see Quidditch brought in, because they can now use everything that Quidditch champions have done code-wise and make like the mechanics and all that sort of stuff, because people love it. And so apparently it must play quite nicely. So I'd like to see that thrown in there. It doesn't have to be a big thing, just the ability to play matches would be nice and maybe earn house points. That's it. That's all we want. A multiplayer or co-op mode would be nice as well. And then you can go around doing missions with each other or just having fun. You can have... my mind has just died. The crossed wands activity and like dueling. That would be cool to have as a multiplayer co-op kind of thing. That would be a lot of fun.
Could be very interesting. Yeah,
and there are things that were in the game that people found that hinted that they were thinking about implementing these things, and then just kind of went, okay, let's move on from this, which is kind of annoying. I get it. I'd rather have a polished game without these things than have these things included and it just be a total disaster of a game, for sure.
Yeah.
Revamping some of the collectibles would also be nice, because it was just you walk around, go Revelio, 2 steps, Revelio, couple more steps, Revelio, couple more steps, Revelio, and that was kind of how you find collectibles. And I'm not like, man, it's just that kind of sucks. So like adding in, say, the chocolate frogs with the cards on them, that'd be cool. And you go around collecting some of those, and then like just like different things like that, and not where you have to just walk around casting Revelio every 2 or 3 steps would be nice. And a morality system. Honestly, a morality system in this game would be amazing, because basically you've got the unforgivable curses, which, as the name would suggest, if you cast one of these unforgivable curses, they are somewhat unforgivable. Doesn't matter the reasoning. You're fucked up. You're done. Finished. But in this game, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm sure you had good reason to Avada Kedavra every single person that you came across. It's fine. Not a problem. So I think adding a morality system where when you use those curses, like it drops down, and then your NPCs might act differently depending on where your morality system is, that would be really, really cool. They may be, hey, here's a task. If you never use them, they go, here's a quest. Thank you. You can help me out. Or if you use those curses a lot, they might go, oh, you're bad, and then they run away from you, or whatever it happens to be. That would be really, really cool to add into the game. But
absolutely,
yeah. So if they can add in some of those things, I'm happy. Or maybe they wait until Hogwarts Legacy 2, because they're going to be doing another one at some point, because this was a massive success and they would be quite stupid not to do a second one. But staying with video games and nostalgia, I grew up on PlayStation. That was my main console. I had Nintendo 64, and then I had the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. That was my childhood there. And one of the big games that...
And a lot of others.
Yeah, definitely. I was always jealous of people that had like a Super Nintendo or something, because I never had one. But one of the franchises that I really, really gravitated towards, and I played the ever-loving shit out of, is God of War. Loved that game.
Yeah.
Amazing. Now, there are rumors going around that the Greek saga, so you're talking God of War 1, 2, 3, Ascension, plus the PSP games, Ghosts of Sparta and Chains of Olympus. There is a rumor going around that they may be working on remastering those for PC, for PS5, PS6, whatever. That would be sick.
I will say, Sony has been remaking a lot of games.
Yes.
Or at least developers on the Sony platform have been remaking a lot of games. It almost seems like Sony is encouraging publishers on their platform to go out of their way to do these kinds of things. And it's been successful.
Yeah, most definitely.
The Last of Us remakes, the Final Fantasy remakes, they've been on a tear, and a bunch of others, of basically bringing a lot of their classics into the modern era. And if they at least just get this kind of okay, it will sell.
Oh, for sure.
Like, people are so ready to have these remakes. They want it tomorrow. Everyone's saying, "Shut up and take my money." It has to be successful for Sony.
Yeah.
Even if they just get it kind of right.
Yeah. So did you ever play God of War?
Yes, I played the first two.
So how do you think they would, if they just upgraded the graphics and that was the only thing that they did, do you think that would pass with today's audience?
I think it would not be as successful, but there is enough nostalgia that it would do just fine. The thing that I think could potentially sink it is whether or not they decide to censor the games at all.
Yeah, that one scene from the first game.
Yeah.
And everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Obviously, it's pretty gory as well throughout all of them. The modern, God of War games have done extremely well with all of the gore in them, but it still may potentially limit the audience if it's as gory as it used to be. And if they censor it or tone the gore down, that could potentially turn a lot of people off of it.
Yeah, they have to stay faithful to the originals, and I don't know if they should remaster or remake. That's where I'm sitting. Like, which side of the fence do you go on? Do you remaster it and go, we've got this fucking amazing game, and we can just upgrade all of the graphics, make it look super nice, and we can make it just flow a little bit nicer, and it'll be cool. It's good. It's done. Or do you go, okay, there's things here that are quite outdated. Let's kind of revamp it a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it's a tricky thing, technically speaking, right? Often with these older games, especially the age of the first few games back in that PS2 era, you can't just port it to PC. Like, it's not that simple. Or port it to the new PlayStation hardware. They do kind of need to almost remake the game underlying a lot of the time when they do these kinds of remakes. And particularly when it's a hack and slash like this, where it's so important that it feels right, and that the difference in 100 milliseconds or a couple of 100 milliseconds of timing in certain animations and button pressures and things like that, all of those kinds of things could just make it feel off and wrong. So they've definitely got their work cut out for them, I think, to bring it forward. But like I said, if they even do a half decent job, it'll still sell like hotcakes.
Definitely. Looking at the Reddit thread, most of the comments just say, "Shut up and take my money." Yep. And I think that's the overall vibe that everyone has with this. It's such an iconic character, Kratos, and it's going to be marketed towards our generation who grew up with it, and they don't care. They now have access to adult money, and they don't have someone going, "Well, you shouldn't buy that game." They're going to go, here's my money. Give me more. I'll take more. I'll take 10. Give me more.
Yeah.
And it's almost guaranteed to be successful unless they severely, and I mean like very severely, do something wrong. If they go really woke with it, which you can't with Kratos, especially in the Greek saga, if they try and turn him into the Norse saga Kratos, I don't think that's going to work. That's going to be the only downfall, is if they do that.
Yeah.
Because he's young and he's just out to kill anyone and anything that he can.
Yeah, I feel like if they try and bring those original stories into the sort of Norse saga sensibilities, it just won't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
it'll kind of miss the point of those original games.
Because like in the Norse saga, he's what, like 1,000 years old or something? I think. So he's got all of this knowledge and world experience that has shaped him into the person that he becomes from the Greek saga. The Greek saga, he's only like 40 or 50 years old. Which, I mean, for us, if you're 40 or 50 and you're running around like a dickhead, well, you should probably know better. But we're talking about a literal god here. So
there are also plenty of humans that age that are running around like dickheads. So
valid point.
I guess to be expected.
Yeah.
If someone like Elon Musk could live to 1,000 years, then maybe he might eventually one day gain some wisdom.
I don't want that. That sounds awful.
No, nobody wants that.
I'll be long dead, but I really, really don't want that to happen. I used to be like, oh yeah, I really want a Tesla. Elon Musk is awesome. And very, very quickly I've gone, oh, he's a pretentious twat. He's so self-absorbed.
There's so many. Let's not get on the topic. We'll just be going for another hour on him alone.
And that brings us to the end of the first part of our first episode. We wanted to keep each episode to around an hour long, give or take, and we ended up recording for nigh on 2 hours. As a result, we are going to break up the first episode into 2 parts, and luckily for you, we have part 2 ready to go already. Going forward, however, we will be trimming off a lot of extra bits to keep the episodes to time. So, if you want to listen to the tangents that we occasionally go on, you can catch the full and unedited episodes over on our Patreon. So, if you enjoyed this, check out all our socials and hit up our Discord server. For now, see you over in part 2.